Why is Battlefield 5 receiving so much hate after DICE released that initial trailer? Well, in this video I'm going to go through some reasons why I think it's receiving all of that bad press, and of course there are some interesting things I'm going to bring in, mainly from Reddit, that some of you guys may agree with and may disagree with. Now of course this is a contentious subject. People don't like being told what to like and what to dislike, and whenever they have an opinion it's very difficult to change the matter. That being said, do leave your comment down below. I want to create a bit of a discussion. I want to know your feelings on Battlefield 5 regarding the trailer and whether you think DICE can turn it around for the main game. We haven't seen gameplay yet, it's unfair to judge the game as a whole, but we can of course judge the trailer. That's the whole point of critiquing stuff. DICE release it, there's a like and a dislike button on YouTube and you're allowed to give your opinion. Now as of making this video, the DICE official Battlefield 5 trailer has 6 million views and then 220,000 likes to 200,000 dislikes. An absolute insane amount of dislikes, nearly 50%, not what I wanted to see at all. I really wanted to see a Battlefield 1 style trailer where you've got maybe 0.1% dislikes. This is almost on a Call of Duty level when they released games that were definitely hated. Even their World War II game only got 10% dislikes, and Call of Duty is always contentious with its trailers. Battlefield seems to have dropped the ball a little bit with this one, but let's find out why. Now firstly, I believe the trailer missed the mark on some serious things in terms of making a trailer. I don't feel as if the music was good enough. With Battlefield 1 you had 7 Nations Army, it was very impactful. In BF5 you didn't really have anything. You didn't even have the iconic Battlefield theme tune, apart from maybe a little bit on the radio of the vehicle and just a couple of snippets throughout the trailer. Now check out what the trailer would have looked like if we'd had the 7 Nations Army background music. This trailer has been recreated from Midas Gaming. You can find his channel in the description down below. I'm just going to play a little clip of it. I think it's very cool to see the different effect that an impactful track can have on a simple trailer such as this. Now it's definitely really important to realise that with this video I'm trying to explain why the trailer has so many dislikes. I'm not trying to say why I didn't like it. There are many different reasons surrounding the controversy of Battlefield 5 and the trailer. The action was all very Call of Duty-esque and was far too fast-paced for my liking. Now I'm not talking about the gameplay because obviously we haven't seen any, and I do think it will play a lot slower than Call of Duty. I think it will play a lot slower than Battlefield 1 in fact, and will be a lot more methodical and tactical. However, with just the trailer to go by and not any information that was provided by Jack Frags or Westy or any of those guys, just the trailer to go by, it was very fast paced and too much stuff happened to take in. You couldn't appreciate a lot of stuff and it was very Michael Bay, as people have been saying. I don't like this approach of Battlefield. I thought BF1 had a lot of action-packed stuff in the trailer, but it was quite well done. BF5 definitely not, and I did not like that approach at all. The trailer also didn't represent the gameplay in any way, which is a shame because you want to see gameplay, as that's what you'll be doing when you play the game. They tried to with the MG42 hip-firing everybody down. I think they'd have been far better off if they'd gone for a 20-second snippet at the start of the trailer where you're following, or third-person following, or the camera's just behind the shoulder of a player who's clearing a building. And it's not very action-packed to Michael Bay, it's very tactical, and it's almost like what you'd receive in the game. I think if they'd done that, people would have been thinking, yes, okay, that's what the game's going to play like. I'm going to leave a like on this because I actually really want to experience that. At the minute, it's just all action-packed, a bit like a Hollywood trailer for an action movie that would bomb in the cinema. Now for something that's very contentious, and I'm going to bring in some Reddit quotes as well along the way, so brace yourselves because you know with Reddit you can get some pretty toxic stuff, although I'm going to stick to stuff that made a bit of sense. This is of course regarding misrepresentation in World War II. Now I'm not talking about realism. You can't argue that games and Battlefield games in general, and to be honest any FPS games, are that realistic, because of course you get to respawn, you get health that will magically heal you, guns that never existed, like in BF1 the Hellriegel never even had a working prototype of that gun. So it's very, very difficult to cut the line or draw a line in the sand and say this is where you can't cross, this is realism, this isn't realism, because to be honest, it's just very wishy-washy anyway. There's no real rules on it. Now, a very highly upvoted post on Reddit, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's correct, but it means many people agree, regarded the way World War II looked. And bear in mind that DICE are calling this a World War II game. Now, the most immersive, authentic World War II game we've seen is what DICE were quoted in saying. Now, authentic is a very difficult word to include if you're then not going to be authentic. Immersive, I understand, it doesn't quite mean the same thing. Edit number 1, all would be cool if the female soldiers were clearly Russian or French resistance or other resistances, but the soldier in the trailer is clearly British and seriously a prosthetic. If you were hurt badly enough to warrant that, you wouldn't be on the front lines anyway. Come on guys, you can do better. Now I'm 50-50 with that comment. First of all, I think that yes, DICE should do more to be more accurate, but at the same time, I'm not really bothered because it's a game and if it plays well, it plays well. Edit 2, realism of gameplay and realism of setting / historical accuracy are two different things. If you make a game in historical setting, the least you could do is stay true to it. If you don't want to do that, you don't make it in an historical setting. So taking this into account, I think pretty much explains why we have the dislikes on the video. People don't really care for the realism of gameplay, but they do care for the realism of the setting, and that's just the way it is. People got annoyed because World War II isn't how they pictured it, so they left a dislike, and I think that explains exactly why there are 50% dislikes on that trailer. Now at the end, the too long didn't read. This again sums it up quite well. If you're going to make an historical World War II game, commit. Or clearly commit to an alternative reality where you can do whatever the heck you want because it isn't World War II. Now that's where I think DICE dropped the ball. If they'd come out and said, listen, this is not going to be World War II, it is a completely alternative steampunk World War II, almost prefaced the trailer with that, people couldn't be mad. Because essentially, I know there's a lot of realism in there in terms of these people were in the war, but it's not the traditional World War II style, and they'd have avoided a lot of hate if they'd done it that way round. Now I also think it's worth mentioning that this could be getting blown well out of proportion. Another Reddit post asked readers to remember back to Battlefield 1 with the trailer when a black soldier was shown and it was blown completely out of proportion. People just were looking for something to blame, and in fact that was pretty toxic, and I didn't really like the way that that was handled by a lot of the more controversial content creators, and I'm not naming names at all. A lot of them were fairly small who were doing this sort of thing and basically saying that DICE were pandering to the diversity crowd, which in fact in some ways they kind of were, but they were doing it historically and they were trying to be as accurate as possible. Now I think the same thing is probably going to happen with Battlefield 5 just because of the way DICE have tried to challenge people's perceptions, and that again is a reason for so many dislikes on the video. Now I'm going to add one more thing that I think really does sum up a lot of people's opinion on World War II and Battlefield's take on it. As a chick, this Battlefield 5 trailer absolutely disgusts me. I can't speak for people of colour or people with disabilities, but I can say that the overrepresentation of women in the Battlefield 5 trailer perpetuates the myth that rewriting history appeases past indiscretions. If you want to show women, don't cheapen the actual contribution that actual women made. Why do game devs think that what we want is a mockery of the sacrifices and adversities that brave women endured and overcame through a willingness to serve their countries? Instead of rewriting history to include diversity, why not address the underlying issues that led to a lack of diversity? Instead of shying away from violations such as gender and race segregation, why not show characters overcoming adversity and having integrity? If you're going to give female representation, give us war stories that are real. Give me British women facing sexism as they operate AA instruments. Give me Russian sniper women. Give me Nancy Wake, Elsie Otts, Susan Travers. Give me Reba Whittle, a US flight nurse that was kept as a prisoner of war and tended to the wounded that were in the camp with her. Give me Major Wanda Goetz, a Polish woman who dressed as a man during World War I and became one of the first resistance fighters of World War II. By not addressing these struggles, DICE has instead chosen to downplay and dismiss the adversity that women suffered when they could have really showed the consequences of sexism. Nice job, assholes. So clearly, even people who maybe DICE were planning to appease haven't found this very good either. And of course, these have a lot of upvotes, 3,000 plus upvotes within 24 hours, and a lot of comments discussing beneath. I've linked the post down below, you should definitely check them out. Now, something really cool down below, people have started teaming up together and showcasing what DICE maybe should have focused on with famous women and other minorities that maybe could have been represented in the war stories, and maybe had the whole game shaped around them. It would have been realistic, it would have been fair, and it's about time that game creators such as DICE actually focused on this stuff with realism and actually went for something that happened instead of making things up. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's a controversial subject. Obviously, by the like to dislike ratio, something's caused it, and I've gone through a few of the reasons why I think it didn't do as well as it should have. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.